Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm going to take a look at Linux Lite. Linux Lite is something that I'm not sure I've ever looked at before. However, I am now. So anyways, what I want to take a look at is Linux Lite 7.0 RC1, which is now available for testing. And according to their website, the estimated release date, I believe, is June 1st, 2024. And I had to emphasize the year there just in case you're watching in the year 2059, or even more strangely, watching from the year 2012. According to the website here, I'm at the release announcement right now on their website with a link in the description below, of course. And it says here that Linux Lite 7.0, the theme of this series is maturity. We've been offering Linux Lite now for 12 years, and in that time have integrated many features as suggested in the community, as well as building upon a solid and secure foundation. See below for details. So Linux Lite 7.0 Final, which will be codenamed Galena, will be released on the 1st of June, like I said before. So that is quite exciting. And there's some nice screenshots here also on the website, and it's also showing a little snapshot there of the Thunar file manager in the version 4.18.8 of our XFCE release. And nice looking theming there too. I like the icons right off the bat, so that's nice. And I'm actually quite excited about using this, so I'm just going to really get right down to this and download this, because I can't wait to jump in. I believe if I scroll here to the bottom of the page, and I'm also going to leave the download link in the description below. However, down here at the release announcement, there we have the link. You can just pick by your country, and of course I am in the US, so I'm just going to scroll down here and choose the first one here in the list. And I'm going to click on it, load it in, and I'll be right back. Alright, and here I am. I'm at our live boot menu here, and looks good already, even at a plain old grub screen. Nice. So I'm booting in now, and this shouldn't take too long to load into the live system here. And we got our Linux Lite spinner there. And now we're coming into our desktop, and it is looking good right off the bat. So here we are. We got our Linux Lite welcome screen here, and we got our start area and our install now. And then, of course, our XFCE Desktop, and it looks like it's got a lot of nice extra icons on there. I'm liking that as well. So I'm going to hit the install now button, and we'll let that load in, and that should be popping up any second now. And there's our installer screen. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And by the way, this is based on Ubuntu, just so you know. I think I forgot to mention that originally, but it also mentions that on the website. That this is an Ubuntu-based distro, so we got lots of stability happening here. And so I just hit next again, and I'm going to check this box for install third-party software for graphics. So that is always a handy thing to check, because sometimes you need those for your Wi-Fi and other features. And so here in our next step, I'm just going to go with erase disk and install Linux. So I'm just going to let it do everything and partition my hard disk and all that. Remember, if you do that on yours, it's going to erase all your data. So you got to be sure to let it go. And so then we will continue on here, and it's showing our location by default, so that's good. And then finally, the final step, we can put in a username. So I'm just going to go with the usual Toadwick, and then choose a password, and then retype it, and it says it's a weak password. Excellent. All right, so there we go. And I'm going to stick with the defaults there to require my passwords. And now we got this nice looking slideshow. That is really nice. I actually scrolled through all these different slides here, so now I'm going backwards to show you, because I was so impressed with the slideshow here that I thought, you know what, I'm going to turn the recording back on and kind of scroll through this. So very nice looking slides, giving you a nice overview presentation while you're waiting for the install. And with that, I'll be back. And I'm back now. Everything installed just fine. I'm just going to hit continue testing. Restart, not continue. What am I doing? And so we're going to restart the computer. I'm going to remove the ISO and then just start this from scratch. Okay, restarting here, and if everything went okay, I should be seeing a login screen any second now. And there we go. There's the old Toadwick, so it looks like everything went fine. I'm just going to go ahead and log in here, and then we should be seeing our screen. And there we go. So it looks like everything went just fine. Excellent. And there's our welcome screen again. Looks just the same as it did before, minus the install button. So perfect. So here we have our desktop. There's our whisker menu right here. And looks like we got the light theme happening. Looks real nice right off the bat. That's our show desktop. And then we got our other items. Looks like Google Chrome is installed by default. I like that. And then we got our Thunar right here. Very nice theming. I like the icons there and the colors. So that kind of looks like an adaptive type icon. Very cool. And then here we got our start here area. So these are recommended steps that you can go through at the beginning of your journey here. So I'm just going to hit install updates and just authenticate here and let this do the updates. And since I'm recording, we can get through this in a second because I can hit that pause button. So it's downloading the updates, and that went pretty fast actually. So I'm just going to say no to viewing the update log, hit the home icon, and then we come back to our main menu again. And then here we got install drivers, which I don't need any, so I'm going to skip that. And then here you can reset or set up a restore point, which is pretty nice using Timeshift. So I just authenticated in, and here you can use rsync because this is not a Btrfs partition, so that's the alternative. And so it's going to go ahead and estimate our size and look at all the files and stuff. And then it brings up our hard drive, which is selected by default. So if I hit next, then you can actually schedule your snapshot levels. Daily is good with me. And then here you got an option to use your user home directories. And personally, I don't typically include those because that takes up a lot of space and it's kind of redundant in my opinion. But if you have important things in your home directory that you don't back up yourself, I guess that could be an option there. After you complete the setup, then we just click finish, and then there you go. You're all ready to go with a restore point. And so Timeshift is now active, and that's all there is to it. It's quite simple. Coming back to the menu here, if we scroll down, there's other things in here like your UEFI and secure boot. So there's a lot of information if you need to know more about your UEFI menu, or if you want to turn on secure boot. And I'm going to change the dark theme. So here we got our theme selector, and the dark theme, I like it. Very nice. So that looks good. Not sure what that dark theme is, but, and then the rest we got like our numlock settings, which looking at my keyboard, I can see it's already on by default. So happy about that. And then here's an upgrade section. So when you're ready to upgrade, like the 7.2, then you can hit that button and it'll do it all for you. And then here we can take a look at our Lite software. This is recommended software by, I'm assuming, the Linux Lite team. So I'm just going to open that up here, and right now it's just populating the list here. It's contacting and repos, I think. So I'm going to hit install software and hit OK, and then it should show us some kind of window with a list of software in there that I believe is recommended by the Linux Lite team. And so here we got a whole bunch of stuff, and we got some proprietary things mixed in there. We also have Firefox, Audacity, Calibre, Kodi, Nitro Share, wow, OBS Studio, Password Manager. That's a really great program. I use that myself, actually. Remote desktop software, Spotify, Skype, Steam, TeamViewer, Weather Monitor. I'm going to select Weather Monitor, actually. That's something I use quite often. And that's a simple weather update that I believe goes in your taskbar. So I might as well just click on that. That looks like a nice simple thing to install. And so that was completed. And then after you've installed all the software that you need, you can just cancel that or click remove if you change your mind. So, and then the last part wraps it up here with your different requirements there for running Linux Lite. These are the minimum requirements. It showed 20 gigs there for minimum on your hard drive, but I think that would pretty much fill your hard drive, so I would go with more than that, actually. And so now we have our whisker menu, and I'm just kind of scrolling through the categories, and already, by default, it's already set up to change categories by hover, which I like that. Here's our USB image maker. Nice to see that installed. The graphics, we got GIMP, Paint, Photo Manager, and a drawing program, which I think might be from LibreOffice. Then we have Google Chrome, and Thunderbird is our mail client. That looks good. Multimedia, we got VLC player, DVD, CD burner, and a volume control. Excellent. Under Office, here we have our Office stuff, and we also have a PDF viewer. And I'm assuming this is LibreOffice. If I hit Spreadsheet here, there it is. Yeah, so that's Libre. And that's a great Office suite, something I use fairly often. And let's just take a look at our theming here. And I see on the toolbar, it's actually set up for a light theme. And since I switched to a dark theme, that means that I should switch my toolbar icons to a dark theme appropriate icon set as well. So I'm going to go down here to Options, and then I'm going to select View. And then over here to my right, I got Icon Theme. And by default, it's set at automatic. So I'm going to just change that. Maybe I'll go with Breeze Dark. And then when I hit Apply, now all the icons light up. You don't have those dim ones in there, which they're not dim when you're in the light theme. But when you're in a dark theme, some of those icons become dim and they're hard to see. So that's one reason I always go in there and just kind of make sure it's theme appropriate there. We got our system stuff here, like our system monitor, terminal emulator, printers, package manager. I wonder what kind of package manager this is running. Actually, just log in here and see if that's maybe Synaptic. And it is Synaptic Package Manager. Cool. All right. Yeah, I do like Synaptic. I think that's an excellent choice to have on here as the package manager. If I'm going to be in a GUI environment, that's what I like. I'm going to just type in Inkscape here and see if it comes up. And nothing. Oh, I see. In the search, above the search window there, it says Rebuilding Search Index. So it's actually kind of creating an index first, since it's the first time I'm running it. So I should actually give that a second to populate before I make it look for something. There we go. Now it changed back to Quick Filter. So if I type in Inkscape now, we should be good. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go with the top one there, and it's showing Inkscape 1.22. Nice. So I'm going to right click over that, select Mark for Installation, and then select Mark for those additional dependencies. And then on Apply, I'm going to hit Apply, and then Apply for the other two items in there as well. And so now it's applying the changes. It should be downloading all the stuff I need, including Inkscape. And then that should be that. So easy peasy to install off of the Synaptics Manager. And Synaptics is kind of like a nice front end to the terminal. So it uses very little resources. It's very friendly and fast. And so I'm going to go into our settings now. I was just in the menu, whisker menu, and I hit it down in the lower left corner. And by the way, there's our Inkscape. So that installed and showed up in the menu. So that's good. So in our settings here, we got our About Me. So that's nice that that's added in for our XFCE. And so here you can easily change your avatar if you wish, which by default is the Linux Lite Feather. And then here we have our appearance, so that's where we can tweak our theming if we want to change it. Like, for example, Graybird Dark kind of changes everything to more of a Graybird color. And then here's our light theme, our Materia Light, compact, and Materia Dark is what we're using by default. And I like that, actually. Then here are in our next tab, we got icons. And it looks like we're using the Papyrus Adapta Noco, I guess. So, nice. Or maybe it was Adapta. And then we got, either one I think looks about the same. Here's our Papyrus Dark, so we got a different shade of blue there. And our Ubuntu Mono Dark, so that's kind of more the traditional Ubuntu look, just like the Humanity is. And then we got GNOME. So the old classic look there. And then ePapyrus Dark, and there's our Adwaita. And of all these, I gotta agree with the Linux Lite team. I think our Papyrus Adapta is the best one. The one that we're using by default, I believe. So I like it. I'm gonna stick with that. And then here we got our fonts. So by default, it's using the Roboto regular font at 12 points, and I think that's pretty nice, so I'll just leave it like that. And then we have our menu settings and our button settings. By default, it will show the images in our buttons and menu, which I like. And then here's our file manager preferences, and I like to change the format, date format to today at and then the time. So that way, that's relevant to the list view. So if I go in here and change this view to list, then under date modified, you can see it's showing today at 6:35.27 p.m. So that way I know today when I created a file or modified it. Here's our image preview. That would be under view and then side pane. And if we check the image preview box here, then an image will preview right here if you click on an image, which I don't have any installed. But by default, the image preview mode is embedded, which means it'll show up down there in that corner. Then you have a standalone option, which I think will show up in another pane on the right-hand side, if I remember right. And then here we got our advanced settings, which I don't normally touch, and then our keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to change or just know what those shortcuts are, you can just go in here and see what the keyboard shortcuts are to do things like go to your home folder or open a new tab, which is Control-T, stuff like that. So very good. I'm going to close out of there, and let's see what other goodies we got. So here we got our notifications, we got our panel settings. That's kind of an important one. So let's jump in here real quick. And I'm going to unlock the panel. If you do that, then you can grab this little grip item here and just pull that up and put it up on top. So if you're more comfortable with your menu up there, you can have it up there. And I kind of like it on top, but I also like it on the bottom. I'm not fussy. Then there's a desk bar mode. So if you switch that mode, then that is actually tailored very nicely to go vertically. And then you can also have vertical mode. And the difference mainly is that the layout in vertical mode is the same as horizontal, except that it's vertical. So I'm going to relock the panel. Here under appearance, you can do things like adjust the opacity on your panel below. And so you can make it more transparent if you wish. And I'm going to slide up out of the way. I'm going to go way up here on top. And so here's all the items in our panel, and they all correspond to this list. And then I'm going to add in that weather. I think that's the thing that I installed previously from that software list. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it corresponds to that item there, that plugin for the XFCE panel. And so now I want to put that over here near the workspace switcher. So to do that, all I got to do is select weather update and then come up here and just tap my arrow, click that a few times, and you can see that it's moving down there. And so now it's on the other side of my workspace switcher right here, but it's kind of crowding it a little bit. So I'm going to click the add button and select the separator and add that in there as well. And I'm going to move the separator up between the weather update and the workspace switcher, just like I did before. So I'm going to just hit the up arrow button And there we go, we got it in between, and now you can see it right there. And it looks like a little vertical line. So I'm going to go in our settings here, and under style, I'm going to select transparent. And then that'll make it disappear. So now we just have a space there without seeing any kind of indication of a spacer. So that kind of makes it look nice cosmetically. And since I'm in my weather update, I'm also going to go in the settings here, and then it'll populate your location automatically. If I click on the scroll box tab, I can select from this list to have things show up, like the temperature is the main thing I like. And so I'm going to hit the plus to add that in. And when I do that, then you can see 80 degrees right next to the icon. Cool. I'm liking it. So that's really the XFCE weather app, and I just love that app. That's, in my opinion, the best weather panel app that there is. Here we got our window manager tweaks, and typically I leave everything at the default except the opacity of windows during move. When I back that off a little bit, it becomes a little transparent when I slide a window around. So I just kind of like that as a little nice effect there. Then we have our workspaces, and by default down here in your switcher you can see 2 separate workspaces. So here's where we can add in more. So I can just keep clicking that plus and add in a bunch. Now I got like 7 down here. Cool. So you can just put tons of workspace, and by right clicking on the switcher and selecting workspace settings, it'll take you right into the same area where I'm at now here. So that's just a little shortcut to get there, just to bring that window up exclusively. But they do the same thing because it's essentially the same app. And then you can also rename those workspaces just by clicking on them. And then you can edit it. And then hit the negative button and you can just kind of take workspaces away. And I'm going to just leave it at 2, which is the default for this presentation. And then here we got our behavior for our keyboard. So under behavior, we have our numlock settings, and then we have our application shortcuts here. So if you want to set up keyboard shortcuts, that's the area to do it. And all you got to do is hit add, and then type in something like, let's add in a shortcut for Inkscape. So I'm just going to type in Inkscape. That's our command for it. And then let's just press Super I. There we go. So the super key and I will now launch Inkscape, and you can see it there in the list. Very nice. So I just pressed Super I, and there it is. It came up. I noticed that when I pressed Super I, the super activated the menu over there too. So apparently there's no delay in the menu when you press super. The super key will open up your whisker menu. So anyway, there it is, and I think that's 1.22 if I remember right, and it is. Okay, so that was the stable release from December 2022. So that's quite the stable release. Of course, if you want something more cutting edge, you could kind of put a flat pack in there and install it. And then our keyboard layout, I'll just close that, and then we'll move on to our mouse and touchpad. So if you're a lefty, this is where you can change it over to left-handed. And then you got your reverse scroll direction if you want the scrolling direction to go the opposite way. And then here under theme, these are our cursor themes. So if you like a white cursor instead, you could click here and just select from a number of different white cursors, and then a number of different black styles here as well. And I like the good old Adwaita, really, personally. And of course, each of these themes also have all the different cursors that go along with it, like your spinner and your crosshair and things like that when you're in other operations that involve your cursor. So that's kind of nice as well. And then we got our power manager, and it looks like by default all the annoying stuff is turned off. I like that. So lock screen is off, all the display blanking and sleep and all that is all off. So very nice. I like that everything's set to that state, so that way I have the option to enable what I want instead of being annoyed by it by default. So very good. Thumbs up to the Linux Lite team for that one. And then here we got our Linux Lite customize apps here like the auto login, and here's the Lite Desktop. So these correspond to the items over here on the desktop. And for example, if I want to remove the help menu, I can check the help manual disable, and then boom, it disappeared just like that. And then of course, if I want to bring it back, there's a separate listing here for help manual enable. So just check that, hit OK, and it's back. So easy peasy if you want to remove and add those on there. Looked like the info there didn't apply to a VM, which is okay. And then we got our Lite software, which we looked at before. And then we have Lite sounds. So here we got enable system sounds, login sound, and all that. And then our Lite sources. So if we go in here, it needs authentication. We can see all our different repos. So by default, I'm using the USA default repo here, but this is where you can kind of manage your repos if you want to change it for whatever reason. This is the area you do it, or just check to make sure it's there. Then we have Lite tweaks, and if we go in here, we can do things like auto remove packages, a boot fix, clear the Chrome cache, change your host name. There's a kernel installer, numlock setting, and all this stuff. You can even restore your taskbar. That's kind of nice. So if you get it hosed up beyond how you can fix it somehow, then it'll let you restore it back to its default state. And so I'm not sure if Lite tweaks is actually working, but I'm going to check hostname and hit begin. And yeah, that's not doing anything. And that's not really a surprise to me because I read on their website that the Lite tweaks was not working yet in the RC release, but I anticipate that'll be working in June when the official release is out. And then here we got our user manager, so you can add in new groups and new users right there. And then of course our welcome menu was accessible right there. And then enable Lite widget. So there's our widget. I like it. So you can turn that on if you like having the widget there, or you can turn it off. It lets you do both. Excellent. And then we have our session and startup here. So here you can add in all your auto starts or disable. So you can like unclick the Lite welcome if you don't want that showing up at auto start or at the startup when you log in. And you can add any of these or even add your own custom app if you want it to start up at startup. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the settings. Here, the only things left are the others like the Bluetooth adapters, firewall, settings editor, and all that. So there you go. Excellent. And if I come up here, right click, I'm going to go into our desktop settings because I want to see the wallpaper. Yes. Oh, that's a nice one. So we got a book there in monochrome. I like it. That is actually pretty cool. There's a colorful one that looks like a kind of a European cityscape there with a bunch of lights in the foreground, maybe a lighted fence. And there's a kitten. Wow, who doesn't like kittens? Nice. And there's some kind of mysterious thing. There's a floating orb-like object that occupies my home planet that looks similar to that. You did not hear that. Then we got a rose. Excellent. That rose looks really nice, actually. That really pops with the colors and the reds and so forth. So I like that. That is actually a really nice background. That is a contender. We got a brick wall, and here's a cityscape. And I like that. It's got kind of a futuristic look, even though it's the present. I think that might be Shanghai, maybe. But anyway, I think it looks really cool, so I'm going to keep that. It really works with this theme, even though it's a dark theme. Here we got our icon, so we can set our different visibility icons, turn on our home folder if we want. But it's off by default because the user files is already there. You can turn your trash off and on and show removable devices as well if you want to be able to see a U drive or something that you plug in. And then here is our icons, and we can set our orientation here. By default it's top left vertical, but we can change it to horizontal and have it go that way. And I like it that way actually, but you can also do the same thing and have it over on the top right, and the same for the other two corners. So you can also have it vertical over there. And then you can also do it bottom, and of course bottom left and bottom right, vertical and horizontal. So a lot of options there. I like it very much, and I think I'm going to go with upper left horizontal there. And then we can also adjust our icon size too. The default really is just fine there at 48, but we can bump it up even higher to make it big, or we can make it smaller like at 42. And actually I kind of like it smaller personally, so I'm kind of good with that. So I'm going to hit close and slide that over. And then let's open up our XFCE terminal here. And then I'm going to just bring that in the middle and this kind of magnify it a bit using my Control-Shift+. And you can see it's got a little bit of basic information, and I like the theming down there at the prompt. Very cool. And HTOP is installed. I just type that in and there it is. Wow. So we're using 793 megs of RAM. Not bad. I like it. And it even feels zippy, so I can see why it's not giving me any heavy stuff. And there's NeoFetch with a cool background sound. Nice. So here we're running the XFCE Desktop with XFWM4 for our window manager, with a Materia theme, Materia Dark to be exact, Papyrus icons and so forth. Yeah, and again showing our memory there at 797 megs. Very cool. And version 7.0 for our Linux Lite RC1. And I really like the overall theming there. The turquoise blue is nice. So I'm going to open up Chrome here real quick and just kind of see our version and all that. And I'm going to scooch down a little bit. And here we got our ad blocker. Extension looks like it's installed by default. And if I go here to help in our settings menu, we can see that we're running version 124.0.6867.201, the official build, 64-bit. And I believe that's from the Debian package as well. Very cool. And speaking of which, I'm going to open up the terminal here. And why don't I install Firefox too? So I'm going to just do this right from the terminal instead of from the GUI. And so all we got to do is a sudo apt install Firefox, and then just authenticate. And just press enter for yes, because that's the default. Or you can type a Y like I did and do it the hard way. And there we go. So easy peasy. And that's why I like the terminal. It's just super fast. If you know what you want to install, it's just much quicker. So now we have our Firefox web browser. If I right click here, I can click add in panel, and I'm going to scooch out of the way here because by default it moved down to the right hand side here. And so if I right click, I can select move from the menu here and just navigate over to wherever I want to put it and then click, and it'll show up right there in the menu. Very nice. And another thing you can do is right click and just add it to the desktop. So I could do that, and there we go. It just popped up there on the desktop. And then again, I can right click, add to favorites, and then it'll show up in my favorites category over here. So those are 3 different things you can do with the icons to make them show up in various places. And I just clicked on that because I want to open it up and see what version we're using. And so there's our Firefox, open right up. If I go to our settings, help, about Firefox, and there you can see we're running version 125.0.3, 64-bit. And it also is showing that that is the Debian install package. So the reason I kind of mentioned that on both is because some Ubuntu distros and Ubuntu use the snap repos and put in the snap version of those. But this is the actual Debian package, which personally I like better for the browser, but I don't really have any hang-ups over the Snap version either. And then I forgot to show this. When you click on the weather app here, it brings up all the details for the next several days, 5 to be exact. And I just think that's cool. So in our Thunar, I'm going to go back to icon view because that's just where it is by default, even though personally I use the list view a lot. But we'll just put it there anyways for show. Here's our clock, and I noticed, just noticed that the seconds are also activated, which I like. Personally, I like having the seconds running. Some people find it distracting, but not me. And the other cool thing is you can separately adjust the fonts for your date and the time. For my time, I want to have it bold, so I'm just going to hit bold here. And now you can see the fonts are bold. So that's even cooler in my opinion. So excellent. And then we got our other items like volume control and our updater menu item and all that. So, wow. I'm just gonna lower myself back down into the corner or slink. I am good at lowering myself, but you know. So, I guess it's time for my 2 cents. I think I just kind of covered everything I wanted to cover on this tour, and that's really what this video was meant to do, is just to kind of explore and take a poke around and see what it looks like in Linux Lite. If you're not familiar with Linux Lite, never used it, like me, now you know a little bit about what it looks like and the look and feel and all that other good stuff. And in my opinion, I am really liking what I see. I do understand that this is a release candidate, and so it's another few more weeks before the actual official release comes out, which, like I said at the beginning of the video, is targeted for June 1st. Yay! I can't wait to try it out because I am so impressed with the release candidate here that, I really want to take a look at this and play with it when the release comes out. I know a lot of times, especially when you got a team like the Linux Lite people behind it, that the release candidates are almost complete. So you get such a good snapshot of what to expect when the official version comes out. And so with this one in the release candidate, I didn't see anything wrong except the Linux tweaks, the Lite tweaks, which is already mentioned in the release announcement forum there. So that wasn't any shocker to me. So I'm kind of looking forward to that as well. Because I've never really messed with those Lite tweaks, but I know one of the features I really like in Arco Linux when I'm running Arch is Arco Linux has these Arco tweaks, Arch tweaks or whatever they call it. It's a customized utility created, I believe, by Eric Dubois, the Arco Linux dude himself. And I love that tweak utility. It's really fantastic. And so just looking at the Linux Lite tweak utility, it kind of reminds me of it. I get that same vibe of coolness when I look at it. So when that release is out, I'm going to check it out. Of course, I could just download the current stable release and check it out as well. But, So I'm going to say, based on my quick and dirty walkthrough here, just to kind of explore and get the feel of the Linux Lite landscape, I'm giving this 2 thumbs up right off the bat. And being that it's based on Ubuntu, it's got to be stable and trouble-free. Relatively. It also happens to be on one of my favorite desktops, which is XFCE. I love XFCE. That's just really, in my opinion, one of the most trouble-free desktops there is. Not to mention the fact that it's so configurable. So if you like configurability, XFCE is the way to go. And with that, I hope this quick review was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And if it wasn't, put a thumbs up on it and then take it off. Yeah, that's it. And then put it back on again. And just keep doing that until you're so confused that you decide to just leave it on anyway. And with that, don't forget to also hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.